You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis show. My guests are Joyce Bar Muktari, Kojo Opong Nkrumah, Martin Pebu, and Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. And before we get to the next segment, Spike in Ohio, in the USA, has some comments. He says the cash for seats stinks, period. The president should take steps to forestall such ugly and embarrassing occurrences in the future. Musa Abato in Kumasi says, I'm happy Speaker of Parliament has constituted the committee to investigate this matter, but my difficulty has to do with the terms of reference, which is not clearly stated. It's clearly stated, you don't like it. The multiple contradictions since this issue broke is very worrying. Mustafa Abdullahi says that I now get it. The minority have made a tactical, calculated move to get the motion they presented before Parliament to be shut down. We thank the Speaker for taking such a bold decision to allow the motion to go on. We are waiting patiently for the outcome of the committee set up. It will be good for Mother Ghana if the sitting of the committee is televised for the Ghanaian populace to follow. Let the truth be exposed. Now, Mensa in New York says that on the Bank of Ghana issue, the positions are political and it happens everywhere. In the US today, almost all Obama appointees at the Treasury, other places including the FBI, CIA, etc., are all out. In fact, this is the first time in US history that the president had sacked all 50 state attorneys at the same time. In any case, okay, the man could have resisted it. Okay, but are you really sure this is the situation in the US? What did Obama tell us when he came here? I think that the institutions do work better elsewhere than we may want to suggest to underget, you know, our political, you know, idiosyncrasies. Now, let's hear what President Akufo Addo had to say when eventually, on the first day, his first day at work, he signed the OSP bill into law.
My hope and expectation is that the establishment of this office is going to be an important step in our collective determination to root out corruption in the public life of our country. All of us know that it has been a major bane in the development of Ghana. And hopefully this office, that is its intention, will make that contribution and make sure that public officials, past and present, are held to account for their actions, and that corrupt acts will no longer go without investigation and, if necessary, sanction once due process has been respected.
Martin, do you agree, for example, with what the president had to say, what Dr. Bamia also said, that this will bring discipline in the system, people who are stealing will be dealt with? Some say it sounds as if all along nothing has been happening until and unless an OSP, you know, comes into effect. We have not been doing anything. Is that the suggestion, really? And then you may canvass your points also on what Emil Short particularly says, that, look, the offices should be advertised for the most competent to apply and to be given the job, instead of what we are hearing, that those who are supposed to do that job have already been picked. Competent persons, but who are associated with the president.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yes, the president's statement, I should say, you know, for these matters, you can either look at it positively or negatively, you know. At this stage, I choose to look at it positively, that if essentially, he and the vice president sought to say that, look, I've begun the fight on corruption earnestly. That is it. Because you see that from the manifesto to this stage, it had always been trumpeted, it had always been said that is the SP Act that was going to be the main channel or the main avenue for fighting corruption. So I think that looking at the context of
as in fighting grand corruption.
Exactly. Yes, that should be the word, because looking at the act, that's where it should be. So I take it that essentially those were statements to say that our plan to fight corruption has begun in earnest. So by no means, I mean, that was not to say that nothing has happened so far. At least we are aware the NCA matter is in court. So that's Mr. William Tevi is before the court of law. And others, 4 others, Alhaji Osman and the rest. Yes, so let's look at it in that context. But you see, the only thing is that that this Special Prosecutor Act, well, it hasn't done as much as citizens would have, wanted it. Because you see that there had been this clamor that let the person be independent. We want that independence.
That's what the law provides for.
Oh, no, not enough. You see that if you look at the current architecture of the law, the person is going to be nominated by the Attorney General. By the Attorney General.
Parliament will vet the person and the President will appoint the person.
Yeah, no, not good enough, not good enough. Look, this and what we really wanted is what, you see, earlier on the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, they came out and said they want to participate. Let them participate in the vetting, let people apply. Then we have an independent body outside the executive. Let them do the vetting.
Are judges of the Superior Court of Ghana independent?
Well, Sam, you know, this is a very complex matter. You know what?
Yeah, they go through a process, and it's the president who, you know, has the final say.
The two are not the same. If I want to give a full answer to this question, all my time would. So
they have security of tenure.
Yes, that doesn't guarantee
you cannot
remove
them, and their conditions. And these officers have similar conditions.
Yes, but
same conditions.
Yes, but the problem
7 years.
It's not even about the length of time. The thing is about the appointment. You see, these are persons who are coming as appointees, more or less, of the president. The Attorney General nominates. The Attorney General is not going to nominate an opposition person. The Attorney General is going to nominate a party person. And so far, you've seen the names. Yes, those individuals, that's Mr. Akoto Ampaw and Philip Addison. Yes, those are fine lawyers. No
they were the president's lawyers when they went to the Supreme Court over the election petition.
They are in his firm. You know,
more than that from his firm.
Exactly. You see, no, but so far, I think we are all, we are political animals, we read in between the lines and everything. You see, those are fine lawyers, individuals. Okay, sure, anything is possible. But the point I'm making is that...
that's why we must vehemently oppose the speculation, so that we'll be surprised at it.
Yes, so, okay, yes, that's a nice one.
It could also be that they are testing everybody's
the waters.
Yes, but the main point is, I see, we really wanted an independent person, somebody that is not linked to the president. But with this situation, especially, as I said, yes, they are fine lawyers personally, but you see the perception to the ordinary Ghanaian, as soon as the ordinary Ghanaian hears that these are persons who practice in the same law firm as the president did, his personal lawyers and all that, look, no matter how, you would never be able to wipe out the perception. So for me, actually, I found it very curious that, you know, this anti-corruption coalition, they visited the president earlier in the year, last year. So I thought the president was going to listen, that really, let's have an independent person. But it looks like, well, all those submissions didn't count. And that really, for me, is troubling, because you see what, look, there are those of us in the middle, every 8 years, who cause a change of government, okay? So, and it's also a fact that, look, if you look at the numbers, MPP, NDC, their core support base cannot, by themselves, bring the party into office. So it means that those of us in the middle really play a key role. So when a full coalition made up of CDD, Professor Jimabuidi and all those people, Linda Oforikwa for the Ghana Anti-Corruption, all those people, Emil Short and the rest, for them to have made this passionate appeal that let's really have an independent person, and for this to have been shut down, for me, really, it leaves me wondering, then it's like, okay, maybe we are still political.
Are you saying that ought to have been put in the law, or now that that is not in the law, they should still do what is not in the law?
It ought to have been put in the law. That's what I'm saying. Because at that time, the law hadn't been passed. It ought to have been. And you see, this clamor for independence of a prosecutor didn't start today. Look, you know the case of J.H. Mensah and Attorney General. He was in there as far back as 1968. In the 1968 Constitutional Commission, they made it clear that, look, we want an independent Attorney General. So they suggested that the Attorney General should have a different tenure of office, 5 years, separate from the President, okay? Yes, and then so if I may just quote briefly, it says that the Attorney General should hold office for 7 years and should be eligible for re-election, okay? And then so on and so forth. So if you look at the context of it, what they were saying there was that they wanted to insulate the Attorney General from the influence of the President. When it went before the Constituent Assembly, they shut it down. Fast forward, you come to, since 1992, there have been several papers from H. Kwesi Prempeh, Professor Kumado, all those, I mean, we've had constitutional lectures, all these decades, people have said it over and over, that look, let's separate the office of Attorney General from Minister of Justice. Let's separate it. We want that independence. So the main point is that, well, the law has been passed, it's not yet too late. Maybe they, as the Honorable said, Honorable Nkrumah says that those names we've heard are speculations. So then the President should make our day. Let's be surprised. Let them take an independent person. There are so many qualified persons at the bar who can do this job. Like they are so, well, I'm not sure I've reached that level yet. You see, so let's do that because you see, at the end of the day, Ghana belongs to all of us. But this current situation where the winner takes all, it's not satisfactory, especially in the face of the fact that these parties alone, if we're basing this electoral vote, I mean, if only the supporters of the parties voted for each party, none of those parties could make it into office. So those in the middle really form a critical chunk, okay, of bringing the party into office. So once you've come into office, citizens come and make a passionate appeal that let's have independence. I think it's about time our politicians listened. Otherwise, from the way it's going, well, you're not sure, very soon, with time, we'll just lose interest in the whole process because it's like each time each president comes, it's winner takes all. It's what the party says that goes. Those in the middle don't matter. Yes.
Interesting. Could you don't think the call by Emil Short particularly is important?
So I'll respond specifically to that one, but let me just give a bit of a background. First of all, why we are doing this. You recall that we've had this argument that fighting corruption often becomes a subject that is then flipped and described as witch hunting, because when governments are in power, they don't touch their own. It is when they leave that a subsequent government now begins to deal with their own. So it is important to add an additional layer to our anti-corruption infrastructure that has the ability to deal with people when they are in government. So today, like was rightly mentioned, we have persons who, even without the Office of the Special Prosecutor, have been investigated and have been put before court as part of the anti-corruption drive. They will have their day in court. Maybe we are wrong, maybe they are wrong, let justice prevail. They'll have their day in court. But an additional layer to now ensure that while we are in power today, you do not have the situation that we had a few years ago, that if somebody does something untoward and an attorney general even has the cahoots that he wants to deal with him, he will literally be removed from office. I don't want to go too deep, but I'm sure all our listeners and our viewers know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's why you are having this particular office being put up. Now, this would principally, and that's why the president says that it will deal with past years, because crime has no statute of limitation, but present and future matters. So today, if you are in government today, if you're a chief executive, minister, deputy, or an appointee, and you think that because your party is in power, you can get away with anything, today, an office of special prosecutor has been set up. We are doing, within the constitutional limitations, we have all we can to give it independence. And that's what brings me to my next point. Article 88(4) of the Constitution gives us, may I say, a certain framework within which prosecutorial power is exercised. And if you are not very tactful and careful, anything you do that seeks to overly or overtly create a semblance of independence now may even become unconstitutional, because prosecutorial power is exclusively within the jurisdiction of the Attorney General. And that is why, in the wisdom of the framers of the law, the decision was made that then all we can do is carve out a bit of those powers for whoever it is. Nobody, under our current constitutional dispensation, can appoint and confer prosecutorial powers on a third party other than the Attorney General, because the Attorney General is the sole repository of prosecutorial powers.
So in the instance, she's donating the power, delegating the power, so to speak.
Then the question now becomes, so after this power has been delegated or donated, in your words, how do you now clothe it in as much independence as you can? That is why you have things like a 7-year tenure, so that it spans the term of a president and goes beyond it. So if that person has security of tenure, that person, and if you look at our EC boss, our judges, you know, of the Supreme Court, etc., that is what, under our current constitutional arrangements, we do to give independence. So we've decided to make it 7 years, so that once you know that you can't be removed unless for stated misconduct, etc., you are less likely to be partisan. Another thing, a parliamentary vetting, and that's where I'll answer the questions of civil society. A parliamentary vetting in which, across board, we are able to interrogate this person sitting before us and make a determination whether or not we believe that this person can truly be an independent special prosecutor. And I think that as we, especially in this administration, believe in strengthening Parliament, it is a good thing now to subject this Attorney General's delegate of powers to a parliamentary vetting. Now, we spent a lot of days, not even hours, days, with the civil society group, H. Kwesi Prempeh, Professor Jima Buedi, Gloria, a lot of them. They came to my committee's work in Koforidua, and they helped us make major amendments to the initial draft of this bill. Major amendments. Where we decided or opted to route their input in the appointment process was rather to input it into the vetting process. During these vettings, they have an opportunity to bring issues and views. They may not necessarily have, because you see, vetting, as it were, is a creature of statute given to a body, Parliament, so to do. If we want, and that's what we want, these third parties to participate, we open a window through which they can bring their issues, bring their memorandum, bring whatever they want to table, to question, to critique, to participate in this process through that window. They may not necessarily have a seat at the table, as though they were members of Parliament participating in the vetting, but their views and their thoughts, their concerns can be factored into it. The little part that Mr. Moshaw talks about, which will be my concluding point, is that maybe we should open it up and allow any interested person to apply. But you see, you go back to 88.4. These public offices have not been offices that we have traditionally, I mean, these public offices found in the Constitution, etc., and a delegation from it, these are my words, have not been offices that we openly advertise for people to apply. Nonetheless, I do believe that we are at a stage that our democracy is growing. This is 25 years. We didn't have this. You've referred to things from the 1960s, talk about this. Today we've had a president who's decided to move one notch further. Let us start with this one. Let's not lose hope that maybe because that particular suggestion, among the many that came in, was not admitted, then let's throw the baby away with the bathwater. Let's take it on board. Let's start working with it. And as we go forward, should there be the need to make further amendments, as it appears we are today doing to 88.4 by this appointment, I'm sure we'll be able to come to that. But I think it's a good beginning for us in adding a layer to our anti-corruption infrastructure that deals with people while they are in office.
Right. You remember that when, in the lead up to the appointment of the Electoral Commission chairperson, the NPP and some of these civil society organizations came up insisting, actually push it to the point of no option for the president, not to exercise the power the Constitution grants him under Article 72 to do this job, together with Council of State, but to do what is being suggested now. Either what they call broad consultations for the appointment of the EC, or to find a way of advertising these kind of jobs. And I recall, I wrote the article titled, New EC Boss, Mr. President, Avoid the Temptation to Sin. And I said that the clear, unambiguous terms of constitutions are not and ought not be negotiated in the absence of crisis or potential crisis if complied with. I think that in the same vein, this government should be the one that should be more amenable to this suggestion of advertisement, because it wanted the same for a similar office like the EC boss. What do you say?
What I say to that is my recall even of a case that was filed. I think Thaddeus Sori was the one who did that case. literally pushing for proof that the element of consultation had taken place. I believe that if today anybody is to situate an argument that there should be broad consultation, it's still within that spirit and it's fairly grounded. But I do not quite, and I'm being honest with you, I do not quite recall somebody saying that the power vested in an appointing authority in the Constitution should not be substituted for public advertisement. I don't recall.
They did a lot of it. Yeah. These CSOs and the NPP in particular.
Gabi came and brought to several countries where the EC, the civil society participates in appointing the EC.
Even though that was not the law, they felt it was good.
Yeah. In the spirit of consultation, I agree totally that there should be consultation so that whoever is appointed is not seen to be somebody in the back pocket of whoever is in power for the day. But I don't think that the constitutional dictates as to who holds the power, and that's why I take you back to 88.4, should be
Would you then say that this government doesn't listen if eventually it is these two persons who are his own personal lawyers and who work from his office are the ones that are appointed?
So now you're asking
because it does appear that the overwhelming opinion is that they are good. Akoto Ampaw, give it to him.
Yeah.
Look, there are not too many of his class.
Exactly.
Yet the people say, just for the sake of the perception, don't do it.
So now you're asking me to make a comment on a speculation. I also resist that temptation.
Okay. How I wish you were still sitting here.
Yeah, but Sam, if I may just chip in briefly, this 88.4, the way the president is going to do the appointment, don't be surprised. People are going to challenge it to the Supreme Court. It's not been well done. It's not been well done because what kind of donation? AG donating the power to the president,
and then you consulting again.
No, but you see, the president's appointment is only perfunctory.
Oh no!
Then let the AG do it.
From the 1950s, the AG has been appointed through executive instruments, several of them, over 7 of them.
Yes.
Different forestry officers, police officers, immigration, different.
But this is a different statute that has been passed that says that looking at the powers under 88.4, you are therefore now setting up somebody to go through a parliamentary process and come for the perfunctory.
So if you are suggesting the president, there will be suits, then the suits will be about the propriety or the lawfulness of the law and not the president's appointment. Because the president will be appointing because the law empowers him to do so.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yes. We're in a democracy.
Yes.
We should allow a system where we have a view, somebody has a counter view. Absolutely nothing wrong.
The law is passed. It would have been better for the AG to have used the executive instrument to do the appointment. Then we have a constitutional amendment. Let's go through a referendum. 88 is an entrenchment.
All right, thank you.
It was a view that the minority leader, for example, even championed at our meetings. Many other persons spoke to it. But after hearing everybody, the House collectively came to a view. That's what we are working with today. Let's see how it pans out.
Okay. Now, at the time when this was going on for the EC, I said broad consultations should be private and should be done by lobbying and not asking for it publicly the way we are doing. The way it's being done now, Joyce, would you say it's right?
Well, you do know how it is. When the shoe is on the other foot, somehow our responses are always very different and absolutely very defensive. So naturally, I appreciate Koju's position on the matter. But a lot of debates, I have always tried very hard to be very true to my personal principles.
Oh, but I don't, Joyce.
Oh, no, not in relation to you, but you have a job to do right now. So it doesn't give you that latitude that I could possibly have. But in all fairness, and as a testament to our democracy, I cannot fathom why the president at this time, of all individuals in Ghana, this particular individual, a key pillar of the bar, would want to go in this manner regarding this specific bill. It may have been a campaign promise. It may even have been a manifesto promise. It may be a good way to commemorate your first year in office. But I do believe that a lot of debate has gone ahead, way ahead of this particular bill. And I think that a lot of consultation could still have been done. Indeed, at the last time when it was presented before Parliament, I had an occasion to chat with one of our very senior members of Parliament. And he was actually under the view at the time that he was not ready even to receive the presidential accent because they had found out certain things that they needed to go back to the drawing cards and then revert to Parliament.
This is after passage?
Just before, I think. So I suspect that those consultations probably were found to no longer be relevant and that they were no longer important. Let's look at this thing in proper perspective. The office of the Attorney General is a creation of the Constitution. It is actually the only ministerial appointment named by the Constitution.
Yes.
So are you now derogating from the powers that the good people of Ghana, through a referendum, have given to that said appointee of that office or holder of that office at any given time? Are you derogating from the powers that the Attorney General has? Are you taking away certain prosecutorial powers that have hitherto been with that Attorney General?
Already.
Why should they? Yes, but to delegate to another person of similar status or maybe even higher. And you know, in this case, I'm curious because he may not be a minister. Are you then saying that the special prosecutor, whoever that person may be eventually, has what? Is above the Attorney General, below the Attorney General? What is it? When you speak to the word independence in law, and I'm sure that several interpretations can be put on the word independence, the primary interpretation for me would be simply that this is an independent office of a special prosecutor. Full stop. It has no bearings to the Attorney General. The person has no recourse to the Attorney General. The person is supposed to investigate matters that pertain or matters that create an impression that some level or modicum of corruption has taken place, and on his own or her own start these investigations.
Joyce, sorry
Either way, a government will have to undertake this process of passing the legislation.
If I just may interrupt you.
Yes.
You cannot do that while Article 88, as it stands now, literally gives the sole power for prosecution to the Attorney General. And that is why you have no option than to farm out.
So you've gone exactly where I wanted you to go to. In fact, in this case, you would have become a hostile witness from your position. Which is why I know that I know you very well. I knew you were going to give me this response. And for that reason, why you shouldn't be going at it this way.
I disagree.
First and foremost. So maybe, as the constitutional review process had actually captured, there would have been a better way to do this. And you see, we are all Ghanaians. We all want what is best. Honestly, what would be better than advertising that government of Ghana has passed the Special Prosecutors Act? Now we want to recruit a special prosecutor.
But it ought to be stated that the recent Constitution Review Commission's work rejected the proposal for decoupling of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Except that it clearly indicated that you didn't need law to get the two separately done.
Good. But let's add that the commission saw that majority of the respondents said let's decouple.
Yes, but their view, their recommendation was that you don't need that.
But the majority of the populace, don't forget, it is about a referendum.
Exactly.
Which is why I speak largely to the citizenry more than us legal interpreters.
Okay.
For me personally, it is what they found out. Why do you go and get a research based? Great. And these are the oldest democracy we have. At least we model our system on the common law system. So there are examples that abound. In any case, are we saying that we're trying to avoid the situation where we have, like in the US now, where now your special prosecutor is up in arms against you? So then you need to find a friendly individual to occupy that office. And I think that will even further degenerate. Look, corruption is not just about grand corruption. The gravamen of the situation we have is a certain canker that is suddenly creeping into our moral fiber. Ghana has beautiful laws. I tell people that all the time. So many laws, you'll be amazed. In the United States, I'm sure you've seen it. The Constitution is just one page. We have a booklet that traverses from education to Z. Name it. Nothing is out of place. The challenge with our country has always been with the modus of implementation. The challenge has always been with the selection of key individuals to undertake these duties.
In the UK, they have no document to refer to as Constitution.
Is the lack of independence of these officers.
Right.
And I believe that we set up these institutions and we undermine them. And when you start in this manner, you have started to undermine the process already. I have heard the president speak. I was surprised that he went as far as to say, let's wait and see. Whom are we waiting to see? Then the second thing is the vice president himself going to say that, yes, soon we will know who are corrupt and who are not. Please, the office of a special prosecutor is to deal with all acts, be it grand, be it minor, whatever, as the law defines. So when you start to hear the first gentleman of the land issuing veiled threats, if I can call them that, The question is that, are we looking for a special prosecutor to winch hunt? Which hunt specifically? Our political opponents? Are we looking for them to sort of satisfy a manifesto promise that we made, which has propelled us to power?
Because you speak for former President John Mahama. Let's hear the former president, what he had to say after President Akufo Addo had assented to this bill and made comments that President Mahama felt he needed to say something in response, if you like.
Now, recently, President Akufo Addo was threatening members of our administration with prosecution when he visited the Eastern region. And I must say, yes, we are prepared to accept the searing probity of our tenure in office. Having been the disciples of probity and accountability, we must not run away from probity and accountability. We must be prepared to face any prosecution that this government wants to throw at us.
Joyce, why was this necessary, if at all?
Well, let me first respond to Kojo by telling him that you cannot use this act to amend the Constitution. And that one, you can't change it. You can try all the semantics that we all have, whatever nomenclature, that is fact. But you kept referring to, and I said I was happy you did. I was expecting you to do so. But please inform Mr. President that this is a provision that we would need to look at again.
Okay.
You know, I believe that a lot of speculation has gone about what the boss said on this occasion. I do think that we've all listened. As I said earlier, I didn't even know that he had actually used the same exact terminology that I had used. I didn't even think about it. I've read about stories that have come out of this statement, but I didn't particularly pay attention. First and foremost, I indicated earlier that I've heard several people speak to this office of a special prosecutor as if he had a certain group of people in mind, first and foremost. If we want to fight corruption, I think it transcends all political parties. And as Martin said, and I think today Martin is actually one of my very interesting people, and I like to discover new people. I'd heard him a few times, but we'd never had the opportunity to meet. You know, let's learn to look at certain things objectively. In some cases, you can look at it anyhow. But as he said, look, today in Ghana, of the two largest political parties, the pendulum would keep swinging, one to the other. Because so far, the third force that we all anticipated would help augment our current democracy is simply taking too long to happen. So be that as it may, should the office of a special prosecutor be set up to fight general corruption or to target certain people within political parties who are perceived to have undertaken some corrupt acts? In any case, we have a history of cases that have been tried politically under this particular Fourth Republic, under former President Kufuor until date. It is nothing special, it's not new. In terms of political witch hunting, I think that you set the agenda beautifully for it to fit into this perception. The president himself, in his own words, the vice president, in his own words, it appears as if the manifesto promise, as he said, which propelled us to power, was to target certain key individuals that people perceived. Look, I have been here with Samson several times. I happen to love reading his articles, and I have a certain private chat I would have with him living here. Corruption permeates all of our society, irrespective of the political class. In any case, you are in government now. You know how difficult it is. Everybody will make an installation or an attempt to fight it, but it takes everybody. It must be a concerted effort from A to Z. In fact, when you pick up 2, 3 politicians and use them as your target and set them up for ridicule and all the public political capital that you want to make out of it, does it stem or root out corruption? The answer is no. Does it actually go to the root causes of corruption? The answer is no. Did you see what happened at LWAC yesterday? And I feel particularly very passionate about this. When 500 employees are wanted, and you have nearly 80,000 young people queuing out there, this special prosecutor's bill would not resolve that problem. It would not go to the root causes of corruption. It would not deliver the promises that he made to the good people of Ghana to win the election. The change that we were expecting was a change that would at least tackle corruption from the root causes. I recall a very interesting story a few years ago. A young man who was recruited, I think, into the Auditor General's or Accountant General's department. Within the space of 2 years, was involved in a ghost, scam. A year after he was recruited. What is the reason? The guy has finished university, he's been at home for nearly 3-4 years. The first week he's recruited, a senior man tells him, look, Charlie, here, there's this running. Let's see. Look, we all have worked before. We know how these things go. Let's look at these things objectively. the Office of Special Prosecutor is here to serve the good people of Ghana. The public, as he says, those who decide on which of us becomes government of the day, have a voice too. And sometimes when people advise, instead of defending it and wanting at all, look, I think that the beauty about society and governance is when you admit that maybe I could have listened more, maybe something more can be done. I think it shows beautiful leadership, great leadership, when a leader is able to admit some level of a lack of understanding, having been misled, that something can still be amended, that something can still be done. I would not even want to go down to the issues about lawyer Philip Addison and all of that. His brother is the governor of the central bank. Then he becomes deputy special prosecutor. Hello. This is not for the good people of Ghana. We are all defenders of our democracy. We should start to look at these things in a more dispassionate and objective way. The prosecutor's bill will not take away youth unemployment, which is now a key security issue in this country particularly.
Right. And you refer to LWAC. Actually, there were 84,000.
Great.
84,000 plus. And the jobs that were up for grabs, just 5,000.
500 under 1,000.
84,000.
84,000.
I understand that the last exercise was not any different. And why they didn't think the last exercise they had a pool, that this time they could have actually gone into that pool to say the last time we vetted so many. That time they paid, I'm told, more than what they are paying for the forms now. They paid about 100 or 200 Ghana cedis per form. Now, about the OSP. I'm sure you have heard, after the president, after former President John Mahama made the comments that one of the party's officers, Kokwaido, has come to say, look, we will not go. The president sought to suggest that give support to those who will find themselves as targets of the special prosecutor. And Kokwaido says, look, we shouldn't have any business, leaving our jobs and following people to court and say people who are criminals, Some interpret that to mean that within the party, you have some information, are aware that some people actually committed, grand acts of corruption. And when they are being pursued, they should be left to suffer.
Well, something. Let me say from the outset that Mr. Kokwaido has since issued some clarification. I have read that he says that he has been misquoted by the media and that he did not seek to contradict. And he has actually put out that he believes that solidarity is important, especially based on the legal principle that he should be presumed innocent until proven otherwise. So I think that should be the record.
But we thought that all along we're preaching that crime should have no political color. So if people are being taken on for such alleged crimes, why should there be solidarity from party persons?
I understand President Mahama's solidarity speech to be based. Remember the premise. He said that recently current President Akufo-Addo has been threatening us. He is saying that very soon Ghanaians will see those who are really corrupt. And he was responding to, allegations we've been raising from the minority, and he lists them, then he clears them as usual. He really loves to clear his appointees as quickly as he can. Then he says, "Oh, yes, recently Alan Chamantia Kojisika. Oh, yes, that was an interesting one. Very interesting. He was quite agitated. So quickly cleared him and said, "Oh, but don't worry. Then call baby. We're all in Ghana. Very soon we'll see." And you see, that mindset. Really, I thought the president should not have exhibited that. Kojo made a point about one of the advantages of the Office of Special Prosecutor will be to fight current corruption, so that corruption does not have to be a cross-regime issue. You leave office and then you have to necessarily prove that those who were before you were more corrupt than you are, and you forget about what is happening you know, within. And I say that really it's just been a leadership issue. Our laws are fine. We didn't need this Office of Special Prosecutor to fight current corruption or regime corruption. We don't need that. If we have robust integrity systems, strong leadership, that will not be interested in quickly clearing, papering over, and then, you know, using propaganda that probably other people's corruption was bigger than ours, we will not be where we are. So Alexander Pope said, you drink deep or taste not, the Pelican Brief. We in the minority.
The Pelican Brief, is it the same as the parents' wine? Because I read that
Yes, yeah, they are all of that. But I mean, essentially, drink deep or taste not. The view of the minority is that Article 88.3 is very clear. The Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offences. It's an entrenched clause. Our view is that there should have been a referendum.
Yes.
I agree with Martin, I agree with my sister Joyce. There should have been a referendum. We either want to go the full hog.
Attorney General has been delegating this power to various persons, to police, to EPA, Senate,
and
all of them.
I'm glad you raised that. So
maybe subsequently in due course it will grant that to GTV.
Yeah, very soon at this rate. But you see something. Let's look at paragraph 2 of the memorandum to the bill. It says, quote, the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor has become necessary in view of the institutional bottlenecks that impede the fight against corruption. The monopoly of prosecutorial authority by an Attorney General who is hired and fired by the President has been singled out by governance experts as one of the key factors that stand in the way of using law enforcement and prosecution as a credible tool in the fight against corruption.
What's the point?
So the point is that you could tell, the memorandum of the bill tells you the mindset, the thinking behind the law. It's clear that you want to create an independent prosecutorial body. It's clear because you are concerned about appointing the fact that a person is not independent enough and all of that. That is at the heart of Article 88.3 and 4. So go for the full hog. Let's walk the full distance. Amend the Constitution. That is what we and you see we have a genuine fear that very soon, when work has started, who knows what were preliminary objections that people will be raising and all of that. You know, so, and all of this will impede the fight against corruption unnecessarily. Let us do things right.
Martin, tell me,
on the matter of appointments,
we had fast track courts. There were objections. We went ahead.
Yeah. But do we need all of that?
In the end, fast track court was very useful to all of us.
Now, on the matter of appointment, I read the reports put out by my John Online, and certainly my John Online, we all know they have credible sources all over the place. I've been in the Ministry of Information before, like Kojo, and I do know, yes, to make a point.
You've read and you do know that works.
And I do know that governments will sometimes fly kites. We call it flying the kite to test the waters. How choppy they may be, or how smooth if you finally. If you do any communication, Kojo, you know it's not news. Kojo is trying to portray himself as a novice. I mean, you've been more than a fast learner. When I listen to you, I'm impressed. So something, as you rightly said, Akoto Ampaw is one of the lawyers that I hold in such high esteem. I remember a student activist when I was NUC's president. He's such a human rights advocate extraordinary. It's unbelievable. When Lord Hammer, DM Ufuriata, and others were dismissed by the University of Ghana, we were struggling to get lawyers to take up that case. Oh, University of Ghana, strong institution. I mean, you know, these student activists, you've been sent to school to learn and you want to engage yourselves in all kinds of activism. Akoto Ampaw took the case up without a fee, you know, and I always salute him for that, pro bono, you know, and he won. University of Ghana was forced to reinstate those students. Lord Hammer, DM Ufuriata, you know, and 2 others. So I respect him enormously, but I don't think he needs this controversy. He doesn't need it. I mean, you're a partner to the current president, and the current president, by the way, when you go to the website of the Akufo-Addo Prepe and Co., his name is still there. I think that they need to amend that, except if he's still a partner, and so it means that he's sharing proceeds at the end of the year. And you know that the Constitution does not allow that.
Law firms never amend that until the lawyer is dead.
He cannot hold office of profit. So they need to look at that, because it's just a matter of time. Somebody may want to go test
often the founding members of these firms have such goodwill that you don't want to take their names off.
You know, when those letterheads go around, you know, it's become #1 gentleman. You know, it helps you with getting clients and all of that.
But before he became president, I'm not sure they have a problem with attracting clients.
Of course,
so thank you.
Of course. I mean, I did not attempt to suggest that, not in the very least. But the point I'm making is that he, lawyer Addison, they don't need this. I believe that they are competent people. They can find other jobs for them. But the last point, just 10 seconds, something I want to make, is that I have a fundamental issue with how we fight corruption in this country. Listening to many people is just about the punishment and deterrence, hoping that punishment. Why can't we just prevent? Why can't we put in place very strong systems and have people in charge of institutions who will be vigilant, open their eyes, and just prevent it? Because, I mean, when we sit back, I mean, people do whatever they want, dissipate resources of this country. And you look at this issue we are discussing about the, you know, how many, over 54,000 or 84,000? 84,000.
Queuing for
you know,
jobs
and analysis is something I think that we should stop selling forms. They don't need to pay. And I think we should be leading a campaign for refunds. The money space should be refunded. Let's automate these systems so that you go online, you fill the form. You don't need to pay anything.
Thank you.
We are in a modern era.
Thank you very much. Very insightful discussion that's been going on. And Newsfile is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strongest group and closest partner, MTN. Welcome to the new world. And Motlo car batteries, quality forever. We take a break. When we return, we put 2 issues together where you simply don't want to pay. You don't want to pay your TV license, even though it is law, and you don't want to pay for DVLA safety kits. Why? We'll be right back.